This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Thursday, February 13th. I'm Ephraim Graham. Ahead today, the surprisingly high new numbers of the coronavirus out in China after the government there revises its way of counting new cases. And we're going to bring you a look at one aid in the fight against the virus from Israel. We're going to hear from one national security expert who warns there's a bigger threat from China than the coronavirus. He'll explain why he believes a bigger concern is that country's communist government. A story you'll have to see to believe. It is like something out of the Bible, a plague of locusts, billions of them, and how young people can stay pure in a culture drenched in pornography. All those stories and much more ahead in this edition of CBN NewsWatch. We begin this half hour with the sharply higher coronavirus death toll and numbers of new cases out of China today. 254 new deaths in one day, and a spike in new daily cases to more than 15,000. That puts the overall death toll well more than 1,300, with the total number of cases nearly 60,000. The numbers are higher today after China applied a new methodology in the hardest-hit province of Hubei to determine how the cases are categorized. The virus, now known as COVID-19, is hard to diagnose, making accurate numbers hard to come by. Another case has been confirmed in the U.S. among evacuees in quarantine at a military base in San Diego, making the total now 14. And health officials are preparing for the disease to possibly start to spread here as well. As the virus continues to spread, health experts and people around the world are hoping for some breakthrough cure, vaccine, and protection. As CBN's Chris Mitchell now shows us, technology developed in the heart of Jerusalem could provide an answer.
This is Hong Kong, where people are doing everything they can to avoid becoming the next victim of the deadly coronavirus. With no vaccine and no certainty of when the outbreak will end, many are turning to face masks to protect themselves. But the World Health Organization says masks aren't enough.
For people who have no symptoms, the mask will not necessarily protect them 100% because if they don't apply other measures, it's not sufficient. So my message is more that mask alone is not enough.
An Israeli company wants to offer a different message. Argamon claims its new revolutionary face masks are more than just shields, but weapons that can kill 99% of viruses, like the coronavirus.
It kills all viruses, all bacteria, all fungus. And it will do it 100% of the time, all day, all night, 7 days a week. You can wash it, you can bleach it, you can dye it, you can hit it with a baseball bat. It's going to do its job.
They claim the mask is more effective than the standard N95 mask that millions use for protection, including from the virus.
I designed this mask together with the Hong Kong government. And what's fresh off the press is that as of last night, they dropped the N95 and they've adopted our Israeli standard.
Israeli scientists use invisible sound waves to inject copper particles with antiviral properties into cotton. These engineers then combine the ancient tradition of spinning cotton with today's technology to create the masks.
We treat it, we reconstitute it, and we ship it back. Through the process, the machines don't know that it's treated cotton.
This new tech can also be used to make hospital bedding, towels, and much more.
It'll protect you from exposure to coronavirus and from antivirus. And by the way, I developed this mask primarily for chemotherapy patients.
While it may sound like science fiction, the company's president says Argamon's work is part of biblical prophecy.
What comes out of this country is, I believe we're blessed. I truly believe that we're blessed. And our blessing should go to the world. We should be the light upon nations. And I think that that's a fulfillment of the prophecies. And thank God, we live in a time when we can do that.
Argamon is building a new facility in northern Israel to manufacture and export their potentially life-saving products around the world. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Back here at home, socialist Bernie Sanders is off to a strong start in the race for the Democratic presidential nomination, and that has Democrats in Congress worried, with many warning if Sanders is their nominee in the general election, it could devastate their chances of holding the House or winning the Senate. They worry his socialist label and embracing of controversial ideas like Medicare for All and the Green New Deal could repel voters in moderate swing districts. But Democrats are reluctant to criticize him publicly and aren't sure what they can do to stop him. Meanwhile, groups supporting President Donald Trump are raising enormous amounts of money, bringing in more than $60 million in January. That is according to the Associated Press. And they have more than $200 million on hand. They're shattering fundraising records, and they're on a path toward a goal of raising $1 billion in this political cycle. The money raised in January coincided with most of the Senate's impeachment trial, which resulted in the president's acquittal earlier this month. And now a follow-up to a story we brought you earlier this week. The families of 3 female high school runners in Connecticut filed a federal lawsuit Wednesday trying to block transgender athletes in the state from taking part in girls' sports. The girls are represented by the Alliance Defending Freedom. They argue that allowing athletes with a male anatomy has deprived them of track titles and scholarship opportunities. Connecticut is one of 17 states that allowed transgender high school athletes to compete without restrictions last year. Coming up, while the new coronavirus disease threatens the Chinese people and could create problems for the rest of the world, national security experts warn there's a much greater issue facing the U.S. from China, its communist government. We're going to explain why when we come back.
If you want to be an attorney with a passion for serving people and for excellence, Regent University needs to be high on your list.
Regent's award-winning law school doesn't just create lawyers. We create leaders, judges, prosecutors and defense lawyers, civil litigators, and leaders in government. Ready to become a purpose-driven, practice-ready lawyer? To start your rewarding career, complete the online application, submit your transcripts, and take the law school admissions test by July.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Superbook fans, here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Hillsborough Falls man.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
The coronavirus pandemic is posing a big health and economic crisis for people in China right now, but many foreign policy experts here in the United States believe the virus isn't the top concern for America when it comes to China. Appearing on this week's episode of The Global Lane, retired Brigadier General Robert Spalding says China's communist government itself poses more serious national security risk to the U.S. in the long term.
Greater concern with regard just to this coronavirus alone is a secrecy and control of the Chinese Communist Party. Of course, this goes all the way back to the beginning of December. It didn't really start coming out until mid-January. By then, the epidemic had spread. And so bringing in at an early date our CDC representatives and the WHO would have been the right choice. Of course, China is led by the Chinese Communist Party, which is a totalitarian regime. And essentially, we haven't learned anything from, the 70 years of the Cold War, where the Soviet Union essentially ruled over the United Soviet States, much like the Chinese Communist Party rules over China today. And so we see that come out every once in a while blatantly, like with regard to this coronavirus. But what's more damaging, and what I wrote about in my book, is a very stealthy way that they go about using globalization and the internet to insinuate themselves in every democratic institution within the United States, even to the point where suppressing speech and suppressing religion is something that they can do really at will.
President Trump says that he's been in touch with Chinese President Xi Jinping about the coronavirus, that they're friends. They have a good relationship. So how do you see this viral outbreak affecting U.S.-China relations?
Well, I think it's more affecting the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. So what's finally happening within China is that Chinese people are beginning to wake up and understand what kind of regime they live under. Of course, they've been quarantined to their apartments. Some have actually been locked in their apartments to die. I think, the United States and other democracies have come to know things like the concentration camps in Xinjiang and the forced organ harvesting of prisoners of conscience that has been illuminated by the UK tribunal. But the people of China have essentially been kept in the dark. And so for the first time, they're actually beginning to see the true nature of the regime, which has led to widespread dissent within the country for the first time, really since the Tiananmen Square massacre.
Now, the president's fiscal year 2021 budget, I think, keeps the defense budget about the same, around $740 billion. What will that mean for the national defense strategy that prioritizes China?
Well, I think one of the major things to have happened policy-wise in the United States is last August we pulled out of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty, which was a treaty between Russia and the United States. Now, what that treaty said was the United States couldn't build intermediate-range ballistic or cruise missiles, but the Russians were violating it, and the Chinese have used the fact that they weren't a signatory to build thousands, literally thousands, of intermediate-range ballistic and cruise missiles that are conventionally armed. Some are nuclear-armed in the region, which really puts our forces, like carrier battle groups and our bases, our air bases in the region, under threat. They are taking our innovation, our technology, our talent and capital, and using it to build up their science and technology capability and their manufacturing capability.
Well, I know in his State of the Union address, the president said he's committed to building the newest branch of the U.S. military. That's the U.S. Space Force. The Russians are shadowing our spy satellites in space. So how concerned should we be about outer space warfare with the Russians or the Chinese?
Within the region, very concerned, because we don't have any of the same ground or air-based assets that the Chinese Communist Party has built in the region. And so that really makes our space-based assets vulnerable. I would say more so than the Space Force. So we need to really be focused on the cyber defenses of the United States. The American military doesn't focus on protecting the data of the American people. And we saw recently that Experian was rated of 148 million records. So 148 million Americans had their credit data stolen by the Chinese Communist Party. The Department of Justice indicted the 4 PLA officers, but nevertheless, that data is within China now, and they're going to use it to undermine, the people, or to get close to the people that they want to. And so it's an incredible tragedy that the American military is not protecting the data of the American people. It isn't a national security strategy that we should do that by building a secure nationwide 5G network, but we're not currently doing that because of convention, because of business models, because of politics. And I think we really need to understand the kind of challenges we face today with globalization, the internet.
Cybersecurity, a big issue right here in the U.S. Okay, U.S. Brigadier General Robert Spalding, author, former China strategist for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. Thank you so much for sharing your insights.
Thank you.
And for more important issues in the news, be sure to check out the Global Lane tonight at 9:30. You can find that on the CBN News Channel. Still ahead, a story you have to see to believe. Billions of locusts swarming across the continent of Africa, traveling 100 miles in a single day. It is like something out of the book of Exodus. We're going to show it to you next.
Come home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel. Now available at cbnradio.com.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
Prophecy thousands of years old.
We were called to be a light to the world.
Being fulfilled today. Discover how. Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life. Just call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
See how the people of Israel are fulfilling prophecy.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
By sharing their knowledge.
In Africa, in Asia, in South America, in East Europe.
And their love.
This is how we work. This is us.
Get to life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
One of the world's oldest and most destructive insects is wreaking havoc in Africa. Hundreds of millions of locusts are eating their way across the continent, putting crops, food security, and millions of lives at risk. George Thomas brings us that story now from Zambia.
It's almost like a page out of Exodus, the worst outbreak in decades as billions of desert locusts swarm across a large part of Africa.
Today, locust swarms are as big as major cities, and this is getting worse by the day.
Experts say the average swarm can contain up to 150 million locusts, travel 100 miles in a single day, and grow as large as 250 football fields.
That swarm in one day can eat the same amount of food as the entire population of Kenya. That swarm in one day can eat the same amount of food as everybody here in the tri-state area, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York.
Desperate farmers in rural eastern Kenya are using blankets and other clothing or beating on pots and pans to chase away the hungry pests. But it's doing very little to stop them from devouring crops. And now the UN is warning the fast-breeding insects could grow 500 times between now and June.
I'm seeing a big catastrophe ahead and a very big food security concern if we don't address this problem.
Caught in the path, some 19 million people who already deal with severe food shortages now face another looming catastrophe. The United Nations sending urgent appeals while infected countries deploy thousands of troops and use planes to spray pesticides against the destructive bugs.
It gives you a sense of the scale of the crisis we are facing, and we need to address it immediately.
Today, the countries of Sudan, Eritrea, Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya are facing what experts say is the worst locust infestation in nearly 70 years. But for local farmers further south in countries like here in Zambia, they're facing another crisis, and it's a crisis of a lack of water. 2 years of little to no rain and failed harvests have forced 28-year-old Concepta Hamalombo to abandon her cornfields again this year. She's among some 2 million in this country facing food insecurity.
I didn't harvest any crops last year or this year due to the drought, which forced me to look for work elsewhere. I've been going door to door asking people in my village for work just so I can buy some food.
World Vision, the Christian aid group, is distributing maize meal, drought-resistant maize seed, and cowpeas to families hardest hit by the drought here.
There's not enough water to generate electricity, so businesses and companies have 15 hours, 16 hours of no electricity a day. That also has an impact on people being able to earn money. That has an impact on being able to buy food.
While locusts haven't hit Zambia yet, farmers here worry the massive swarm sweeping across much of East Africa could fly further south, bringing destruction to a region already reeling from extreme weather. George Thomas, CBN News, Southern Province, Zambia.
Coming up, we're going to bring you a look at a CBN program aimed at helping young people stay pure in today's culture, where pornography is more widely available than ever before. We're going to have that story for you when we come back. Stay with us.
It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
From Washington, D.C., uncompromising stories, interviews, and analysis from veteran journalists David Brody.
Escalating fight.
Jenna Browder.
Chose his words carefully.
Ben Kennedy.
Plan to join him.
And Amber Strong.
For impeachment grows a little bit louder.
Bringing you the political news that matters.
We get out and tell the story of the progress that we're making in this country.
Watch Faith Nation, weeknights at 6 on the CBN News Channel.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage, you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religion he has, which color he is. This is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Well, Valentine's Day is tomorrow, and one movement hopes to encourage young Christians to break free from the problems with dating in today's culture. Regent University recently hosted the event called Unhooked, Purity in a Pornified World. Special guests and panelists talked about ways to remain pure in the face of pornography that is more available now than ever. It starts airing this Monday, and before it did, our Heather Sells spoke with CBN's Ashley Key about the program. Take a look.
What was your inspiration for this event?
Well, last year was the first ever Unhooked series CBN did. So last year we talked about singleness and dating and abstaining from the hookup culture and really unhooking ourselves from the world and hooking ourselves to God's word and living pure, you know, what he really calls all of his kids to do. And so, you know, once we tackled that last year, we were like, okay, well, what are we going to talk about this year? And you can't talk about sexuality and living pure without talking about the issue of pornography today, because 70% of people in the church watch porn. that is a problem.
Well, it's so interesting because it's so accessible. I mean,
Exactly.
even when you don't want something that's popping up on your phone.
Exactly.
So what was the tone? What were some of the ideas that were presented? Some takeaways that people were given?
Yeah, so we had amazing guests who were part of the panel. The panel is going to air next Friday on Valentine's Day. We have Brittany De La Mora, who was actually in the porn industry as a film star for 7 years. So we talked to her. We talked to her husband. We talked to Chaz Smith, who's a really popular YouTuber. He's about, a 20-something-year-old guy who is open and honest about his porn struggle and still, fighting that temptation, because the whole thing with Unhooked is purity is so much more than just sexual purity. That's one aspect. But what we've talked about, the conversation is purity is purity of heart, purity of mind, purity of spirit, and that then leads to physical sexual purity.
What did you pick up, or what surprised you from some of the things that the panelists were talking about?
Man, I was honestly very surprised by Chaz Smith. He was really open and honest. Most everyone who we talked to were like, yeah, we had 2 ladies that we spoke to. They were addicted to pornography. That's something, honestly, that surprised me was, a lot of people think that pornography is not just a struggle that guys go through, but it's also for females, too. We struggle with pornography because it's so accessible. But I was really surprised at just their transparency. Chaz, opened up and just said, I still struggle with it. I'm not on the other side, but I'm here to help you guys know that you're not alone, because transparency and accountability is key in overcoming a pornography addiction.
So it sounds like more the focus in terms of prevention is on the front end and where your thoughts are, as opposed to maybe on the back end trying to figure out how to manipulate your phone.
Honestly, it's both. It's both. I mean, we talked about both. We spoke with Jessica Harris, who was a porn addict. She grew up in the church, addicted to pornography, and she really gave some really good advice to parents. I asked her, well, what advice do you have for parents who are finding out that their kids are watching porn, or what advice do you give to parents to prevent that? And she gave some really good tips on that as well. So we do kind of do both things.
All right. Yeah. And any plans for next year? Will this continue on, or that remains to be seen?
I think it's going to continue on. I'm not sure what the topic will be next year, but I mean, we have to continue to talk about these things because it's needed. We have to break free of the taboo topic and just talk about it and be honest.
And we live in a culture where we're being bombarded, even like the Super Bowl halftime show, which everyone was talking about.
Exactly.
So yeah, and details on where people can watch this and when.
Yeah, all they have to do is just go to cbn.com/unhooked starting the 10th, Monday, February 10th. That's where all the content will be. In addition to that, if people want to take their freedom a little bit further, we have a course called Set Free. All you have to do is sign up for that, and that is a really great resource to just encourage you. It's a video online course with the discipleship, community, all of that involved. Just go to cbn.com/unhooked.
Okay. Yeah. Well, this is a great ministry. Thanks for sharing with us.
Thanks.
As you heard, it began airing Monday, so it is running right now. And again, Ashley said if you want to take the online course Set Free, simply go to cbn.com/unhooked, and you can find out how you can do just that. Well, every day is a day of Thanksgiving, and with that in mind, it is time for your Thursday Thankful. I trust you will join me in this prayer of gratitude. Father, I thank you that you always stand ready to deliver more than just a refreshing. You deliver redemption. With that word and prayer, I encourage you to make today a thankful Thursday. Well, that will do it for this edition of CBN Newswatch. We thank you so much for watching. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online. They're available anytime at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. Please feel free to email us. The address is right there now on your screen. It's newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We certainly hope you will join us again right here next time. Make it a thankful Thursday. We'll see you right back here, same time tomorrow. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless.